It is the mayor's purview to limit public comment when there is a large amount of public commenters. I don't want to do that just yet. I'll ask members of the public, you do get 3 minutes. Please, if you don't need the whole 3 minutes, you don't use up the whole 3 minutes. Let's get to, it's a packed night tonight, so let's be polite. First up, we have Ron Bax, followed by JP.
First of all, I'd like to say it's very difficult to cover this subject with 3-minute sound bites. Okay, and it's going to be a 1 minute sound. Well, at first, I guess I get the 3 minutes, but I'm not going to be able to finish. So anyway, the first time I presented, I speed read, which I don't think I got the facts through. The second time, I kind of hit the high points, and I don't think it was kind of logically together. And last time, I went logically through, and I ran out of time. So this time, I think what I'm going to do is I'll go through it. And when I lose my time, I'll be back May 9th to continue where I stopped, okay? But first of all, I shared with you last meeting that my newest tenant was a victim of the no-fault eviction criteria for AB 1482, which from what I hear, a lot of the people here are here to talk about that probably. And I have to ask them what happened to the study session for AB 1482. Now, being a programming, well, I'm an electronics engineer, but did a lot of programming design language, so I have a heads up or a leg up in following the structure of AB 1482 is just over 8 pages long, okay? So be prepared. Anyway, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Vice Mayor, you referenced this survey report that was given July of last year. It's from the survey of April of last year. And not on the slide, but the city council shared, there were 54% owners in the survey, 41% renters, and 5% didn't feel comfortable. If all those who were uncomfortable were renters, 46% total, then the addition of 14% to get to 60% would have to be 23.5.9% of owners. Okay, 14 to 54. If all the uncomfortable were owners, 59% total, then the additional 19% to get to 60% would have come from 32% of them, 19 and 59. Neither of these seem likely. Okay, I found the YouTube on that presentation, and Mayor Talamonte specifically asked, "Is this for this question that was?" I have to get to it. He specifically asked, "Is that assuming that there are some rent control and they want them strengthened, or they want to implement more?" The presenter said he wasn't a super expert on rent control, and then mentioned Costa Hawkins. And there was a female voice that said AB 1482, which is probably more correct, unless she was referring to the off-screen voice was Costa Hawkins. I think that was. I'll be back. Please review this for next time so I can go through it.
JP, followed by John Fisher.
Hello, how's everyone today? I came into the Police Review Commission last week. I chatted with Mr. Schultz, and I have on some occasions talked to the clerk's office and trying to request some records. I have yet to obtain those. Some of the concerns I have is I've been arrested twice in Burbank and never charged in those crimes, and had other crimes made up within those crimes, and no causation for the crimes that then turned into search of my property, a search warrant issued for me at court, and stated in the search warrant they know I show up to my court date, so they're going to serve me at court. I was served by 2 armed police officers, 2 plainclothes police officers, and a Detective Voorhees. who made false allegations against my person, committing a 118.1 PC. That's the penal code. They basically filed a fake police report. They've also conspired against me with the city attorney's office, making up charges. This gentleman is very aware of it. I have spoke with him on occasion and come into the office with my recording device and recorded. He's been pretty cordial. Ginny O, she refuses to set up any kind of meetings with me. The chief refuses to have any meetings with me. They've accused me of threatening a police officer, which I never did. They have evidence of somebody else taking snaps from my videos and links to my videos and using a different platform that I don't even use to put that information out and to dox a police officer. I've gone in and filed with the department and asked them to go after this individual, George Deshi. They have not returned any of my phone calls. They have not gotten back a hold of me. They have violated several of my rights. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the glasses, but I have an injury from a car accident, so the light kind of bugs my eyes, so I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I have on 2 occasions now been arrested. The last time was right from court, taken to my vehicle after my phones were seized at court. And they said they had a warrant for my electronic devices. They left my vehicle wide open with hunting gear in there, camping gear, which included black powder rifles and all sorts of other things that could be considered a weapon. After searching my vehicle, they found a baton I had an expired permit for when I did security. I now used to do to do movie roles as security and police. They took that. I told them what it was for. They said I couldn't have it. It's a felony. The district attorney did not charge me, but the city attorney decided to come after me with charges after putting me in jail on a $20,000 bond, which I bailed out on. Since then, I've tried to get a hold of people to address things, and I have not come to any conclusions. I thank you guys for your time. My time's about up. Thank you for listening. I'm going to get in contact with Mr. Schultz and yourself, sir, and I'll make sure that I advise the council on what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, JP. I have John Fisher, followed by Barbara Beckley. Good evening. Thank you for your comments. I'd like to start by thanking the city of Burbank for putting up EV charging stations for renters. That's because the city of Burbank thought, hey, not everybody owns a home. And that's why I'm here. I work 6 days a week. Every week that I don't work 7 days a week, I've been working hard. But 39, getting to home ownership's been a hard road. I'm going to try to get there. But the building in which I rent was recently sold, and I am learning that there is no legal protection for me, that me, my neighbors, and fellow renters in the city of Burbank can't be thrown out of our building so that the new owners can slap on a coat of paint, turn around, double the value of the apartment market. And it's a horrifying thought that all of a sudden my housing stability is not certain. I don't know what I can do. I don't know. I'm amazed that there's no renters protection in this matter, and I feel like there should be a permanent protection put in place for renters, that we can't be thrown out of our buildings just so that we make a higher profit. All I can do is say that again in different words, but we need permanent protections, and I know the city of Burbank cares about renters as much as homeowners. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you. Thank you.
Well said. That's what you guys are here for.
Good evening. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Barbara Beckley. I'm a longtime Burbank resident. I served for a number of years on the Cultural Arts Commission, and for many, many years I was artistic director of the Colony Theater, retired a couple of years ago. And I understand some of you made it to opening night of Calvin Berger. Thank you for your support. I'm so sorry I wasn't there to greet you personally, but I've been having some health issues. Anyway, the reason I'm here, the other gentleman opened the door on the subject. I live in a post-war bungalow court down near IKEA, lived there for 23 years. And just a few months ago it was sold. And just last week we were all presented with a 60-day notice to quit. which means I now have to find a place to live and I have to move, which is going to be very difficult, especially after 23 years, because I'm 80 years old and not in good health. And I don't know that there's anything you all can do about it, but I just wanted to share that in the hope that possibly you can. Anyway, thank you for your support of the arts in Burbank and support of the theater. I really do appreciate you.
Eric Wilkinson, followed by Albert Harapetian.
Thank you. Last Wednesday, I came home to an eviction notice on my door. The same one taped to all my neighbors' doors. It said we have 60 days to vacate the premises because the landlord intends to demolish or to do extensive renovation on the building. My home that I have lived in for 10 years was just taken from me. It wasn't my fault. It said so in a letter that it's a no-fault eviction. So why am I now 53 days away from being homeless? And my neighbors, 2 of them have newborn children. They are 53 days away from being homeless. It's because our landlord wants to raise the rent more than the 10% that is allowed by law, an increase that my neighbors and I had at the beginning of the year. Renovation evictions are how landlords are undermining the rent increase and undermining the law. The 10% rent increase is already unreasonable for any tenant, but it's not enough. I have become leftover merchandise to be disposed of in a dumpster behind a store so landlords can make room for new, more expensive items. I am not someone's inventory that can be tossed away. I am a personal right. A right to have a home, a right to have a refuge to feel safe in, and the right to live in the community that I love, or so I thought.
Amen.
But Burbank is becoming more hostile to its tenants every year.
Yep.
Most people's income does not increase every year, let alone increase hundreds of dollars a month to cover yearly rent hikes. And many people's income don't increase until the state minimum wage is raised, which also does not happen every year. And rent evictions and unattainable rent hikes allow landlords to put tenants out on the street for profit. It is greed before money. Or greed for vulnerable people and self-before community. No-fault evictions need to end immediately. Any work you do to increase affordable housing in Burbank is being undone by them. And they have been bleeding Burbank for years. I was here in 2019 supporting several friends who received their no-fault renovations, and rent hike notices. I was sitting in the seats back there, listening to tenant after tenant plead for their city council to intervene on their behalf. They ultimately all lost their homes. And today I am standing here with the same hopelessness, asking for your help so my neighbors and I can keep our homes.
Yes.
Landlords to blame politicians or point fingers. Frankly, there's not enough fingers in this room or even in all of Burbank to adequately point out those responsible for the housing crisis that is plaguing the cities in the state and country. Nor would it help. The past cannot be changed. But there are 5 people in front of me that can make a positive change in the lives of Burbank renters. I'm not asking for anything that I didn't believe I had last Tuesday. I'm here now asking for the sense of security that every renter in Burbank deserves. We want a place where we feel safe, we want to live in the community that we love, and we want the comfort of knowing that we are not going to find a letter taped to our door that in 60 days we are to lose our homes for no fault of our own. Thank you.
Followed by Jody Renaud.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, staff.
Much success to you guys.
Thank you so
I
much.
am a real estate broker along with an investor, grad economics, and I've enjoyed the city of Burbank for almost 50 years now. I know this is a very sensitive topic, and the state has passed an assembly bill with taking into consideration a lot of things taken account for. I understand the frustration with some of these tenants, and I feel for them. And I can assure you that there's no landlord that's not willing to work something out with them. As long as they can get together and talk and try to figure something out.
Wrong.
I've dealt with many tenants. I currently manage over 500 units. And the state has passed an assembly bill for a certain purpose. And that purpose is to help the economy grow and to also help both tenants and landlords. At no point in time do tenants encumber the expense that a landlord encumbers. We're dealing with interest rates that are extraordinary, and it's very difficult to keep a property afloat. Recently, one of my clients purchased a property in 2000 in the city of LA. Since December 2000 till now, they have not been able to raise rents, and now they're in the midst of refinancing their property, and they can't even hold on to their property because they just cannot meet their expenses. And all I could ask you to do is let's stick to what we have in place right now. I feel for them as long as they can reach out to whoever the current owners or the future owners and try to figure something out with them. They will listen to you. They will listen to you. So thank you for your time, and I wish the best luck for everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Harpetti. Jody Renaud, followed by Sandra Olivera. Let's, if we disagree with the speakers, let's keep some decorum, please.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Thank you so much for hearing our comments tonight. Like the former speakers, I'm here on behalf of our little neighborhood in Burbank. My husband and I moved here in 1997 from Michigan to pursue our California dream. We moved to Burbank in 2004 and were blessed and fortunate to raise our son here. He went to Miller Elementary, he went to Newer Middle School and graduated from Burbank High School in 2018. He currently works at the Colony Theater, and we couldn't be more proud of him. Living in Burbank has meant the world to us. It's been like the hometown that we're from, and it's the reason why we wanted to move to Burbank. I've worked in Burbank for 16 years as a former staff at the Burbank YMCA. I have had so many opportunities to connect to this community. I see so many familiar faces up here too. Mayor's Youth Task Force, remember that? The Noon Kiwanis Club, former member of the Home Again LA board. I love Burbank. This is my home. All of my neighbors are here. 80% of my neighbors are here. And as John mentioned, our building has just been sold. And so the 20 years of safety and stability that we've had watching each other's children grow up, and now even some of our neighbors' children's 3 generations of people in the same unit, in the same building, 20, 30-year residents. Our world has just been rocked, and we are nervous and we are afraid, and so that safety net is gone. And for us, that means potentially having to move far out of the community to find something that's affordable. Did I mention we love Burbank? We love this community. We love our home. We love our neighborhood. And we're asking to have some sort of rent protection, emergency rent protection put in place. We do not want to be more victims of the rent evictions that are happening. And we are afraid that that's where this unit is going. So on behalf of all of my neighbors that are here tonight, I ask the council to please consider lifelong members of this community that would love to continue living in this vibrant community.
Sandra Olivera, followed by Juan Opina Lopez.
Well said.
Buenas noches a todos, gracias por escucharnos. Mi nombre es Sandra Olvera y vivo en la zona postal 91504. Tengo más de 30 años viviendo en Burbank. Mis hijos Karen y Juan crecieron en Burbank. Estoy aquí porque conozco las necesidades de los inquilinos, porque yo soy una. Estoy pasando por tiempos muy difíciles, estresantes y tristes. Tengo muchos problemas médicos y todo me está afectando todavía más. El momento que el propietario tomó la propiedad no fue honesto con nosotros los inquilinos. Usó un traductor que nos explicó que le firmáramos un papel para que le dieran el préstamo para poder construir más apartamentos y nos aseguró que no nos iba a correr a afectar a nosotros. Un año después vinieron los propietarios me dieron una carta en abril primero dándonos 60 días para desalojar el apartamento para poder remodelar. Yo tengo 8 años en la lista de espera de sección 8 en Burbank, con la esperanza en que en este caso algo así pase y pueda tener donde vivir. Las viviendas ahora en Burbank en estos momentos cobran más o 3 veces más de lo renta que pagamos hoy en apartamentos en Lincoln Street. Esto me ha afectado drásticamente mi vida y en estos momentos no sé qué hacer. Estoy aquí para pedirles su ayuda a los inquilinos y muchas gracias por escucharnos. Buenas noches.
And City Clerk, any positive time?
Good evening, council. My name is Viviana Garzon. I am a city employee and my name is on the city's bilingual list for translation services. And per Ms. Olvera's request to the city, I will be translating her public comment. My name is Sandra Olvera. My name is Sandra Olvera and I live in the 91504 area code. I have lived in Burbank for over 30 years. My children Karen and Juan grew up in Burbank. I am here because I know the needs of the tenants. I am going through very difficult, stressful, and sad times. I have many medical problems and all this is affecting me even more. The moment the new owner purchased the property, he was not honest with the tenants. He used a translator who explained to us that if we signed a paper, they would give him a loan to be able to build more apartments. And he reassured us that he was not going to evict us or change our rent. A year later, we received a letter a few weeks ago on April 1st, giving us 60 days to move from the apartment so they could remodel. I have been on the Section 8 waiting list in Burbank for over 8 years, with the hope that in case something like this would happen to me, I would still have a place to live. The cost of rent in Burbank is 3 to 4 times more than the rent I pay for my apartment on Lincoln Street. This is going to just drastically affect my life, and I don't know what to do. I'm here to ask you to help the renters in Burbank. Thank you.
Hello, is this under the same speaker or is this one?
I'm Juan.
One, okay, so you can reset the record, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Juan Opina Lopez. I live in 91504 with my mother Sandra. I've been living there for about roughly 30 years on and off. I've always felt at home and secure until this new landlord came to manage the property. The landlord told us that when he came to manage this property, he had no warehouse, all we wouldn't do is renovate the apartments. The upgrades have been cosmetic to the outside. The inside has only deteriorated and has not once mentioned fixing any of it. We have mold, a heater that almost caught on fire, and nothing has been done. A year later, he tells us that he wants us to move out in 60 days because he wants to make repairs to the apartment. I honestly just want this nightmare to be over. I spent several sleepless nights thinking what's going to happen next. Where are we going and can we afford it? We have lived here in Burbank and never had issues like this or thought this would happen this way. At this time, I want my mom to be okay and I want the city to take action on stopping these landlords from forcing us tenants to move out due to renovations. Please help us out.
Clint Allison, followed by Jorge Rivera.
I have copies for you. And I'll just go ahead and start.
Yeah.
One thing that Sandra, who's been my neighbor for 11 years, did not mention is that she's worked in the hospital cooking food for 30 years. So this is not a bad person. Okay, so honored members of the council, for the record, my name is Clint Hollis One. I was born in Los Angeles County in 1970 and have lived at the same address in Burbank for 11 years. I am current on my rent, I pay my taxes, maintain a credit score over 700, and have no criminal record. I am not a villain. On the contrary, I happily give my time fielding outreach calls from people who grew up in dysfunctional homes. I don't drink or use drugs. By all accounts, I am what any society would want to keep: hardworking, honest, helpful. I'm also one of the working poor, a laborer over 50. My earnings last year were $31,000. I've been able to make things work due to affordable housing. The current protections against no-fault evictions, such as the one I'm going through, are not enough. If nothing is done, I risk losing all my possessions, my credit, and my livelihood. Mostly because right now, when a speculative investor wants to increase their monthly income, they can simply use the word remodel and move me out in 60 days with a pitiful compensation. Renters in the city of Burbank are estimated, based on what you see below, a majority of 57.2% of the population here. The flip side is to ask yourself, who owns the rental units in Burbank? Considering absentee landlords not residing in the city, ask yourself how many Burbank voters actually own rental units here? And why is it more important to facilitate a handful of wealthy investors in furthering their profits rather than securing housing for tens of thousands of taxpayers? I'm asking tonight for local government to step up and protect a disenfranchised majority whose very existence is proof that democracy must right a wrong. Furthermore, the creation of an emergency ordinance to stop renovation evictions will cause no loss to a single landlord, as we current on our rent will continue to make our payments as agreed. No-fault renovation evictions serve not to protect against loss, but to increase wealth, and in the process cause the city to lose affordable housing, while at the same time putting good tenants at risk of total loss. It is no exaggeration for me to tell you I'm looking headlong at homelessness, the loss of good credit, and all my possessions both dear and for utility, such as childhood memorabilia, a small library, my wardrobe, computers, tools, furniture, and a vehicle necessary to get to work. How will I be made whole if I am ruined?
Thank you.
Please read the rest. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Jorge Rivera. I'm with the Healing and Justice Center. We are a community-based organization that creating safe, connected, and healthy spaces through programs, services, and advocacy. And if I look down, it's because I have some vision issues. But I'm also a practicing real estate agent, so I can speak on behalf of realtors that investors are not here to create housing, they're creating wealth and money, and I'm all for tenant protections.
Yes.
We are here to stand in support of Clint and Mrs. Olvera, her family, and all the many other tenants at risk of losing not only their home, but their community and livelihood. At HJC, we use trauma-informed practices in our advocacy because we fully understand the extremely heavy impacts of stress and trauma have on our health and well-being. Studies have shown that stress of moving is as impactful as the death of a loved one. So you can only imagine the level of stress Clint and Mrs. Olvera and her family are experiencing since having received the 60-day notice to move due to supposed renovations. With all of these tenants' health already compromised, as shown by a letter we received from Mrs. Olvera's doctor, the stress of this situation puts her health at further risk. That is why we're here to ask you, good people, to do something and pass an emergency ordinance for tenants like Ms. Olvera and Clint against these type of renovation evictions or renovictions. The city of Claremont just passed something similar and is now considering rent stabilization. Long Beach requires approved plans and permits to be paid for and pulled before they can even notice the tenant with the 60-day notice. So I'm reminded of the quote by Edmund Burke, and I paraphrase, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing."
Yes.
You may think that Mrs. Olvera's situation qualifies as evil or not, but we define violence as anything that hurts the mind, body, or spirit of another human being. So this definitely qualifies as violent.
Yes, it does.
Mrs. Olvera is a 30-year resident and effectively a person with disabilities. What messages does it send other long-term tenants in Burbank if you good people do nothing about this type of eviction? Mr. Allison one has lived here more than a decade, and his home is going to be taken away if you good people do nothing. Please pass an emergency ordinance, if only temporary, while you investigate permanent options to stopping these type of illegitimate renovictions. Thank you.
Liz Bradley, followed by Emmanuel Perez.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to say how incredibly moved I am by what I've just heard, and it's also kind of a hard act to follow to come up here and talk about horses. But I will try and gallop through. My name is Liz Radley. I'm the National Trail Coordinator for Equestrian Trails Inc., a 501c3 established in 1944, admin for the Burbank Glendale Griffith Park Equestrian Community and Facebook group of over 6,500 people. In fact, we have a new petition started. People are lining up to sign this. It is, of course, to fight Circle K, or fight for Circle K. The current management have decided to close. So, in fact, those horse owners have received eviction notices for their horses. I understand that this is nothing like an eviction notice for yourself and your family, but those horses are their family members also. You should not imagine that all horse owners are wealthy people who can simply put their horse in a trailer and take it somewhere else. This is a real knife in the heart of that Burbank rancher community. I won't go over the email I sent out today. I think most of you have read, to talk about some safety aspects. Thank you, Mayor, for coming down and looking at them in person. I'd like to show the rest of you those specific things, including also Mr. McDougall, if he would be kind enough to join us, not dressed in your smart clothing, but something a little lower key, a little dust in the neighborhood. And I do want to mention in the photo that you saw today in the email, there was a rider who fell from her horse just over a year ago, face first, ejected down onto the bottom of that concrete river. We cannot have that happen again. She is fortunate to be young, and obviously her guardian angels helped her because she lived through it. But the fence on Burbank property that is not much more than knee high, we need to do something about this. And in light of the amount of trucks that may be, moving through with equipment and so on, I think we should look at that sooner rather than later. But in my conversation with Army Corps, because it's the Army Corps fence that is so low, they drew to my attention that the Clean Water Act requires a federal permit. I think maybe Mr. McDougall, you would know more about this. It's, I think, CWA 301, to do with building near the river. In fact, the quote was, "Building by the river, that's a bad idea." So, given that all the people involved with this are small business owners, even the demolition or removal of what's currently there, does that need a permit? Does it need a federal permit? I defer to the experience of Mr. McDougall to assist us on that. Thank you very much for your time.
I have Emmanuel Perez, followed by David Donahue.
Good evening, everyone. So my name is Emmanuel Perez. I'm also falling victim to this renovictions that are happening in Burbank. Excuse me. I've been a member of Burbank, my fiance and I, now for about 6 years. We moved to Burbank. We love Burbank. It's an amazing city. We feel a sense of community here. So, it breaks my heart that landlords now coming in, he bought the building about a year ago, and basically wants to evict us because he wants to make more money on our home. So just wanted to see what, can be done, if anything, and if, something can be done, it has to be done now. We just went through a pandemic. A lot of us are just, starting to get our feet back on our feet. And, with inflation happening, it's really hard for a lot of people, excuse me, to be living, having a way of life here. So, again, I'm representing a lot of people in the community. There's that week to a lot of people, so I was hoping something needs to be done as soon as possible. Thank you, that's my time.
Peter Van, followed by Stephanie Clinton.
Honorable Mayor, Anthony, Vice Mayor Schultz, council members, and staff. I wanted to come tonight and talk about item K, which was the presentation by Ms. Monty Samra with Burbank Water and Power. I had the opportunity to attend their presentation that they gave to the community, and what I'm asking is if the council would help advocate and promote those interactions, because there wasn't a lot of people, but the venue was fantastic. And the information is so easy to understand. Integrated resource plans, interconnectivity, renewable sources, the types of energy that you can use that qualifies as renewables, whether it's small hydro, geo, solar, and wind. So those types all go towards renewables. And to kind of understand how you can achieve the integrated resources plan, which is mandated for 2035, or the community suffers a $147 million penalty. There's also the Governor Newsom has mandated and asked that by certain dates that all the vehicles used by the state's utilities are going to be electric. This is all very hard to kind of conceptualize and kind of bring together, and I would urge the council and staff to kind of dive into this, because what my fear is, and what my understanding is, and what I asked the question at the lectern was, can BWP achieve these goals? And it was my interpretation, not theirs, that they cannot. They're gonna try, if all the stars align, to be able to accomplish this. But right now, when Ms. Samra talks about contracts, which I really want to commend her availability. She has never once hesitated from engaging in a conversation, even as naive as I come across to understand these things. And as someone who's dives into them and tries to understand them, be able to share them with other residents and community members, it is amazing how little is really understood about how the IRP is going to affect. First of all, the acronyms are just mind-boggling, and to be able to understand them is very difficult. To BWP's credit, they are holding a number of sessions where you can go and understand what the true cost to the community will be. Right now, BWP is trying to negotiate with contracts that they cannot win, and they're being outbid by other entities that do not have the ability to transfer the power through the grid and the interconnectivity issues. So if you don't understand what I just said, go to a meeting. Thank you very much for your time, Mayor.
Stephanie Clinton, followed by Iris Coleman. Stephanie, you live a block away?
Hello. I'm very nervous to talk, but I'm gonna do my best. So I've lived in the same building here for 20 years, and I also work here at a small business in Burbank, and I also volunteer at the zoo over 100 hours a year. So I would really like to stay here, and I'm facing a rent eviction as well. So I'm facing this rent eviction. We just got a new landlord. I have no problem with a fair rent increase, but I am a low income resident that cannot afford to relocate. The amount of money I would receive to move under Burbank's lack of tenant protections would not even cover moving expenses for me, let alone a deposit on another rental unit here in the city. We have to find a solution to the loophole that the landlords found to unfairly raise our rents in Burbank. I believe in an emergency freeze on rent evictions and then permanent tenant protections after that. I think these would be a fair step in the right direction until Burbank can vote on a better permanent rent control standard in Burbank. Thank you.
Iris Coleman, followed by Richard Cathcart.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Iris. I live in Burbank for 2 years, and I live close to here in the Olive. And I live in that apartment for almost 3 years, but I received a note for 3 days to move. And and I cashed the check, and now I'm in big trouble. I don't know if you guys can help me in somewhere. And it's for all the people in the building, we have the same note. And I don't know what to do, but I hope you have answer for me. Thank you so much.
Richard Cathcart, followed by Adriana Santos.
Hello, greetings. My name's Richard Cathcart. I'm 80 years old. For the last 20 years, I've lived most happy years of my life in Burbank. I love Burbank. I live in the same building that nice lady who just spoke to with you lives, and it's horrifying what they've done. It's a West LA, Westwood, big corporation behind all kinds of doors you can't penetrate. They send around people who look like thugs, paste things on people's doors, scare everybody. They're all trying to go to their jobs. There are a few older people, and there are a lot of working people. People who work as chefs, hospitals, and all kinds of things. And it's horrifying to see it. I'd like to speak on behalf of my good friend and 20-year neighbor, Jose. He's lived in that building for 34 years, and he's been through 3 owners and 4 managers, and he says he's never seen anything as brutal as the people that are currently hectoring all the people in our apartment building. 40 apartments right across from the park with the airplane in front. And I just like to say that if you do nothing, a decision to do nothing is a decision in itself. And we'd appreciate you doing something on our behalf.
Adriana Santos, followed by Linda Granero.
I'm sorry, Adriana Santos kind of goes to work.
Oh,
She will not be speaking.
all right. I have Linda Granero, followed by Martha Gurel.
Thank you so much to the mayor, vice mayor, and to the council members for hearing us. I, like my previous neighbors, I'm here to express my concern for the lack of rent protection. I'm here for them, I'm here for me, but mostly I'm here for her. Because without any protections, we're essentially losing business. And I did not express to you that I've lived my life ever since becoming a mother, making sure that her life is stable. Making sure that whatever she needs, whatever, as a single mother, it's hard, but I've always tried to make sure that she has what she needs, that she has a roof over her head, and that she feels stability. And so I'm here to do something, because that's what we're facing. I'm the only income earner in my home. She cannot work here, but when she does. But what I'm trying to say is that, for me, her stability means more than anything. And with this renovations that are happening, we are facing homelessness. And I mean, if elder people, if regular people doesn't move you to make a decision, to help us, then maybe seeing a chart, to be in that position will help you to reach a decision to help us. Thank you so much.
Martha Gurel, followed by Alessandra Valdez.
Good evening, everyone, gentlemen, ladies. Mayor Burbank. My name is Martha Urell. I'm from the Maui Apartments. The last 3 tenants you heard from, they're part of my neighbors. We were here 3 years ago, and it's ironic how, and it's wonderful too, here you are where you were with us standing here fighting the same battle. To have our rents stabilized or stop the landlords from kicking us out when we have new owners. This is the second time our building is bought, and all of a sudden, we get into notices. It ranges from the 3 days to 60 days, and then the rest of us were waiting to find that note on our door. I just hope that we can all hear our voices, and we can all also as a community get together and fight for rent control or stabilization, tenant protection. As a senior citizen facing retirement, I cannot afford living down the block at the Olive Park. That I cannot afford that. And I'm not the only one in this situation. We're all in this situation, no matter what age we are. Thank you.
Followed by Jared Cavagnuolo.
Hi. Good evening, council members. My name is Alessandra Valdez. I am a Burbank tenant. I've been a Burbank tenant for 4 years, and I'm also a member of the Burbank Tenants Union. BTU is here tonight to stand in solidarity with our neighbors who are currently facing mass displacement due to the renovation loophole that is currently allowed by the state of California. Unfortunately, these types of evictions are currently legal under state law, and working families and seniors, especially those who are Black and brown, are the ones who are being pushed out of their homes. Burbank is a city of renters. We make up 57% of this city's population, yet we have no protections. Other cities have begun to pass tenant protections and rent stabilization measures, but we're incredibly behind. We must do better. Mass evictions disproportionately impact the most vulnerable members of this city. We receive so many emails from seniors and working class single parents who feel like the city has turned their back on them. These are not isolated incidents, these are systemic and currently allowed by the city. We are asking the council to address this crisis with the urgency that it needs, with permanent tenant protections and a rent stabilization measure that will keep families in their homes. We need right to counsel, a rental registry, universal just cause, protection from landlord retaliation, and the right to organize, just to name a few. Tonight will not be the last time that you hear from us. We are going to continue to organize, and we will be back here every night fighting until these protections are passed. Thank you.
Jared, followed by Kayla Griffith.
Good evening, members of council. You've heard a number of residents express the need for Burbank to adopt permanent tenant protections. Such protections would address not only a housing issue, but a social justice issue facing our city. Rent evictions, unreasonable rent increases, no-fault evictions all disproportionately affect people of color, low-income families, elderly residents, children, single-parent families, people with disabilities, people with limited English proficiency, and undocumented residents. Enacting measures to strengthen tenant protections is therefore essential to ensuring that the city is meeting the needs of those often marginalized groups. And how we choose to protect the rights of Burbank's disenfranchised majority is indicative of the city's values. Now, regarding those values, at a recent city council meeting, a former Burbank mayor stood at this podium, described the racial demographics of the city, and then stated, I quote, "This is Burbank. It's like Beverly Hills. You're going to have a majority of white people. I'm sorry, the cost of living in Burbank prohibits certain people from coming in here," end quote. Now, I don't dispute the accuracy of this statement. Cost of living here is high and not everyone can afford it. I also don't argue with the fact that those who cannot afford to live here are predominantly minorities. In fact, I credit the former mayor with making such a succinct, if perhaps inadvertent, admission of how structural racism exists in Burbank. My problem is with the fact that this admission was apparently received with little more than indifferent resignation. Well, I don't expect fist pounding from the dais or pearl clutching from the gallery. The figurative and literal silence in response to the statement that members of certain groups are effectively prohibited from living in Burbank speaks volumes. It also leaves me with a question for council. What will you do about it? Will you accept the implication from someone who once sat in the very chairs you now occupy that only certain people can and should live in Burbank, as an immutable fact that is beyond your power to address? Will you ignore the multiple stories you've heard tonight from a courageous group of diverse residents who are being told that the city in which they have spent years, decades, most of their lives, no longer welcomes them? Or will you take action to at least start to remedy these inequities? Permanent tenant protections may not completely resolve all of the housing or social justice challenges Burbank faces, but they're certainly a step in the right direction. And you'll forgive me if I believe we should strive to address the needs of residents whose primary concerns are not the impact of interest rates, but that of potential homelessness. Thank you.
Taylor Griffin, followed by Brian Burkowski.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here this evening in support of my friends and their neighbors who are currently facing no-fault eviction. The last time I was here in person at City Council was for this exact same reason. About 4 years ago, I was one of the many Burbank tenants who were evicted without cause ahead of the 2019 Tenant Protection Act. While I'm optimistic to be standing in front of an entirely new council, I'm disappointed that little has changed for Burbank renters these past 4 years. Evictions like this disrupt our communities. We're at risk of not only losing our neighbors, but also desperately needed affordable housing units. And for what? For some renovations to increase the developer's return on investment? At what point do we prioritize housing as a basic human need instead of a means for financial gain? The current state renter protections are not enough. The only protections these tenants are owed is a 60-day notice and 1 free month of rent. And we all know that 1 free month of rent isn't nearly enough to cover the cost of a move. As statewide COVID protections have come to an end, we watch our neighboring cities enact stronger renter protections to prevent mass evictions, but meanwhile, Burbank has done nothing. Many of you ran on addressing the housing crisis in the city, and that's what we're asking you to do now. We're asking you to prioritize our housing situation as the emergency that it is, to stop protecting the profit margins of developers and take action to keep Burbankers in their homes. Please enact stronger tenant protections in Burbank. Thank you.
Followed by April Fangio.
Good evening to everyone here. It's hard to follow that, I have to be honest with you. I'm not here on behalf of all these people, but I truly want to be here on behalf of all of them because I do encourage all of you guys that have the power to do something, whether that's emergency action or I think the crowd is here, which is amazing. So I'm sorry to all of you right now. But this is another issue. And so I'm here, I'm a co-owner of 2 restaurants here in Burbank. And I appreciate everything that previous councils have done during COVID to protect everyone, including homeowners and businesses. Recently, we were part of the now Smash and Grab Club. Our business was broken into just recently, a week ago. But I'm actually here because I was confronted last week with another issue with Burbank Water and Power. I showed up at my business and half of my power was turned off. I didn't understand what the issue was. Ultimately, I found out I had a service disconnection because I didn't pay my bill. Just less than a week earlier, I had made a payment online because I got the phone call saying, hey, you owed some money. I made a $1,500 payment. I thought that that was enough to at least get something resolved because I was dealing with the smash and grab and other things, but apparently it wasn't. I found out that half of my power was remotely turned off, while the other half was not. I went down, proceeded to speak with them with regards to how I did not receive an automated notice saying that your power will be disconnected the next day. I wonder how many others in the city of Burbank, both business owners and homeowners, this is affecting. But I think what I'm here to do is to encourage you guys to talk to the Burbank Water and Power about their notification process, because I don't feel this citizen-owned utility did everything they could. There was no notice on my door, your power will be turned off tomorrow. There was no phone call. I have my cell phone records to prove that. And then I was told that I would actually receive a phone call from Julie Carreran that afternoon. She was the only one that could tell me what calls were made to my phone. And she was the only one at Burbank Water and Power that could tell me that. She wasn't available, but I would get a call that afternoon. This was last Thursday. I still have not heard from her. I think that's wrong because motto of that facility is always there for you. She clearly is not there for me. I ask again that you encourage the Burbank Water and Power Department to enhance their notification process, because I truly think before someone's power is turned off, unfortunately, we did lose a lot of product that I had to throw away. I get that you guys gave them the right to do that, and by all means, that should take place. I mean, if people aren't paying their bill, but literally, I didn't think that the utility was going to go under over $1,600, which is what they told me I owed, even though my bills reflect otherwise. So I'm still trying to figure that out. But again, I just ask you to speak to the Burbank Water and Power Department, the citizen-owned utility, about how they notify people, and they should give a final 24-hour notification saying your power will be shut off. Thank you, everyone.
Fangio, followed by Giselle Martinez.
Hi, everyone. A lot of hard acts to follow. My heart is breaking, but I wanted to introduce myself, I guess. My name is April Fangio. I am the president of Diversity Voter PAC, and I understand there's been some confusion about that. But what I want to talk to you guys about today is actually the redistricting. It says on your flyer right here that it's to give residents a more powerful voice in local government, and that's something I'm so passionate about that I actually formed a political action committee to do that, because here's the thing, and I know you probably know this, is that the voter turnout in Burbank is awful. And I think most of the chamber here can agree that now is the time to get involved in local government, I think. And no one in Burbank is voting. The numbers are abysmal. So my question is, I do not understand, I don't know if the rest of the city understands, how redistricting is going to give people a better voice when their voice is their vote and they're not doing it. So my question to the council is, how are you guys going to, I see this everywhere, marketing is great, but my question is, how is that going to improve the voter turnout? My PAC has ambitions. Our ambitions and our only agenda is we want everyone to vote. Every Burbanker to vote. Every election, the whole ballot, vote informed. We, as you've heard before, we do gatherings where people can come and learn more. We've had various different topics, and we're excited to see that tomorrow night at Burgers and Burbank. And I guess what I want to say about changing election laws. California as a whole has changed election laws quite a bit. And I believe every time we change an election law or election protocol, like redistricting, it creates confusion. And confused minds do nothing. So I don't know how that is going to help our residents vote informed and vote in general. When typically, right now, I looked at the numbers recently, and I know I'm reading on data as well from the county clerk that it is very low, around 20%. So that means 20% of this city is making the decisions already. So by dividing them up, I don't see how that's going to give someone a better voice. I think I would like the council to consider how we can work on getting out the vote, or that is what my neighbor wants to do.
Oh, isn't that craziness? Have a good day, man. You too. I was asking Kimberly about who is the county clerk's office, Kimberly Clark. If you can see that. That's her number, 818-238-5851.
I'm so sorry you went through all that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm
Those
trying to make some
police
change.
department-
Oh, they're mean.
Yeah.
And they're
they
doing
suffer
illegal
no
stuff.
probable noble cause.
Yeah.
You know, that they're for
Has it happened to
just
you?
Just family, I know family members that come to visit the city and then
They've been harassed, right?
harassed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
And
city
I've
has tried
put
to scare people out.
complaints and it doesn't matter your
Nothing's
color
happened
of your skin.
with your complaint?
Well, they say that they're changing and what have you. It's a bunch of bullshit, but you were very powerful in there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm trying.
Really good. And you know what they said? Fuck, I don't want to be harassed.
Oh, I don't want my life
this
ruined or
guy,
other people's lives. You know what I mean?
You
How
have
scary.
Your stuff, the props, and they're props. That's kind of what you for your job, and then they go and insinuate that it's weapons.
And I used to have permits. What they did was they got an order for a search warrant and served it to me on court. Like I'm in a suit and everything. They came and waited around in the courtroom like a guy in court watching me in plain clothes. They said they followed me in the morning. They know exactly where my vehicle is to go search it. The public defender, Mrs. Gopin, came with me. The head public defender says, I'm going to ask my boss if I can go with you. This is too weird. And went with me to be a witness for me. She had to then decline to be in my case because now she's a witness.
Yeah, but see the city attorney there, you got to confront them like that.
I did, right to his face.
Next time, if you can come again, come again.
Oh, I'm coming every week now.
Oh, yeah.
I've had enough of it, you know?
This is bullshit. Well,
good
luck to you.
You too, ma'am. You have a great day. What was your name?
Lori.
Lori, I'm JP.
Hey, JP.
Cool.
God bless you.
You too, sweetie. Thanks so much. Thanks for talking. I appreciate it.
Great job tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate you. You too. Well, there you have it. A person that lives in the community agrees with what I did. And I live in the community, whether they like it or not. And there you go. There's a perfect example of the kind of things that go on. I wanted to ask if they were going to use police force to start evicting tenants, which anyone who watches my channel or anyone who watches any channel like this, whatever you want to call me, First Amendment auditor of this, of that, I believe we have rights in this country. And rights in this country to have a good life, to have opportunities to have a good life, to have causation if you're going to be accused of a crime. There's supposed to be evidence, causation, and a victim. Police cannot be a victim unless you're assaulting them. I've never assaulted a police officer in my life. I won't assault a police officer, but these guys will try to make me out like they have already to be some kind of domestic terrorist or some kind of violent criminal just for standing up for my Second Amendment right and other rights that I have, like my First Amendment to film in public and to redress my grievances. These guys have done this to several people. You just heard that lady talk to me. She's had family members come here that have been threatened by police just for coming here to visit family. That's the kind of stuff that goes on here. That's the kind of stuff that always has gone on here. It's big money, like I've shown you before in my previous videos. If you want to look, you will see that the police department, wow, just cut right around that. The police department will make up whatever they can to get a charge on you and scare you. Okay, they will use basically defamation again, like I stated to them, United States Code 241, 242, and many other codes they have violated and conspired against me and other citizens, obviously. Anyways, I'm going to end the video now. Glad I went to the city council meeting and redressed my grievances with them. These people need to be held accountable, obviously. You heard that lady stating the same thing. I'll do a follow-up video next week when I go to city council meeting and give you guys an update. When anything else happens, you'll see it on my channel. Thanks again. Live from hell, JP Hellacious. Have a good one. Later.